Hey, you. Bravo's now in Canada.
I just got chills.
If you know Bravo,
I love that.
You love that?
you know Vanderpump Rules,
Why does it have to get so complicated?
Summer House,
Don't activate me because you've not seen me activated.
Below Deck,
I'm not your friend, I'm your captain.
Top Chef,
Hi, Chef.
and Housewives. Definitely Housewives.
I'm not gonna lie, I'm looking forward to this.
Bravo, now available.
It's insane.
Subscribe now with your TV service provider.
Fall in Canada has never been hotter.
Frequency Podcast Network. Stories that matter, podcasts that resonate.
Every economist on edge.
High living costs.
The real estate market is showing
An erosion.
Canada's economic struggles.
Value of the loonie against the greenback. And rising unemployment.
Canada's economy is sliding dramatically.
I'm Jordan Heath Rawlings. This is Today in This Economy, where we keep you informed on what the latest economic news means for you. Navigating this economy has never been more confusing or frustrating, and we're here to help with that. I am here with the senior business editor of 680 News, Mike Eppel. And Mike, I understand we have some good breaking business news for once.
Yes, it is positive. The inflation rate has hit 2%.
Why?
Fanfare.
Fanfare. We should have some sounds with, confetti and everything blowing up here, because this is something people have been waiting for a while. So my first question is, what is important about 2%?
It's what the Bank of Canada wants to see, first of all. Secondly, it means that for consumers, prices are finally not necessarily coming down, but they're not going up as fast as they did. It's at a manageable level. Inflation has actually been cooling 8 months in a row. So for much of the year, I mean, a year ago, we were still up around 5%. And at the peak, it was over 8%. So 2% we can live with. What was going on last month? Gas prices were a big contributing factor. And you may have noticed that gas prices have continued to fall into September. So that's positive if you're filling up the gas tank. Food prices are not going up anywhere near what they did at the worst times of inflation. And this was an interesting footnote from StatsCan. For the first time since 1971, in August, clothing and footwear prices came down.
Whoa, back to school sale.
Back to school. And that is definitely not the norm. But retailers had to cut prices because consumers have been so far up against the wall with prices going up as much as they had, and debt levels and interest rates. They had to adjust. So, for parents, it was actually a little bit easier to afford what was necessary in the back-to-school shopping phase, I suppose, for lack of a better description, last month. So, yeah, there were some positives. I think, though, there are also some warning signs.
I knew we were getting a however.
There's always a but. Why is inflation cooling? Well, part of it is because consumers are not spending as much, because they just don't have the money to spend. Housing prices are still elevated. Those have not adjusted, other than condo prices, maybe. And the economy is still struggling under the surface. Unemployment's going up. When you've got people losing their jobs, what do they not do? They don't spend. So there's a bunch of contributing factors here for inflation easing up, which is good. But for the Bank of Canada, they've already said, we're not as worried about inflation.
Okay. So what are they worried about then? The unemployment rate?
The unemployment rate. They're worried about the GDP being negative when you factor out population growth. There are all sorts of underlying signals here that the economy is not doing great.
Well, it's so funny that you mentioned that they're concerned about the unemployment rate, because I remember doing an episode of The Big Story, I guess a little over a year ago, when inflation was still significantly high, in which our economist said, well, the Bank of Canada wants to see unemployment go up. So
mission accomplished.
I mean,
but they don't want it to go up too far. It's all of this. It's the fact that when they move rates, it takes time for it to work.
Right.
So they gotta be, ahead of what they expect the economy to do to try to orchestrate the so-called soft landing. Mm-hmm. If we go into a recession, that is a hard landing. And you also don't want prices to drop too far. That sounds counterintuitive, but if you've got an economy that's struggling and, inflation at 2% or wavering around, you get a stagflation scenario where companies can't raise prices, their profits are hurt, then they have to cut jobs, and it's a vicious spiral. So that all plays into why the Bank of Canada will keep on cutting interest rates. Don't kid yourself. This is it's mission accomplished on inflation, at least right now. And they're going to cut rates again next month, no question about it. And some think they should go 50 basis points. Just
well, that's
do
what
it.
I was going to ask you, which is like, which is we were all expecting another interest rate cut. And in a second, I'm going to ask, how an individual should plan what they're about to do next based on that. But does this signal that these cuts are going to get way more aggressive and we should be prepared if somebody is, say, planning on taking out a mortgage or a car loan or whatever? Like now is not the time. Wait.
It seems like with every economic update, the chorus grows louder that the central bank should cut interest rates faster, more so each meeting. Because right now, the overnight lending rate, their benchmark is at 4.25%. The neutral rate, where it doesn't have a positive or negative effect in the economy, is 2.5%. So you've got a big differential there. May as well go 50 in October, 50 again in December, 50 in January. Do it now. The risk, of course, there's always the but and but. For example, just yesterday, the Feds announced they're extending mortgage amortization for first-time buyers to 30 years. And if you've got that combined with rapidly dropping mortgage rates, does that reaccelerate the housing market?
Right.
Then you still got that underlying problem where prices are still under 4. It is such a difficult scenario for whomever is in charge of government right now. They win some battle, they lose another. It's the next crisis, so to speak, that they're always factoring in.
What is the underlying factor that would make this less of a precarious balancing point? Is it productivity? Is it GDP? Yeah. Like what would drive this all in the right direction? Because it really does seem like now everything you give, you take away.
I'm a big believer in the pendulum effect. We saw the inflation rate, of course, spike. And unemployment rates, at one point were very low. People were, quiet quitting and doing all these things. And all of a sudden, we're seeing this swing back where all of a sudden price pressures are easing, and we got another problem. So there is no simple solution to a short-term fix. Mm-hmm. It's going to take, what did it take for things to kind of go haywire? It took about a year to a year and a half for inflation to really start picking up. It's going to take that amount of time for that aspect to, work itself through. Unemployment, it's going to trend higher in the short term. There's no way getting around that until we see a balancing on immigration factors, the job market stabilizing, all these things. That'll be into 2025, 2026.
Okay.
So there is no silver bullet in over the next couple of months.
Right.
But again, next year, maybe by the summertime, things will really have stabilized, for lack of a better description.
So speak to people now who are seeing this news, and obviously we've heard a lot about the 2%, as we mentioned, as a target. It's been a long 3 years going all the way up and then all the way down. If you're somebody looking at this economy with rising unemployment, with interest rates about to come down, is now a good time to be saving your money, or is now a good time, a lot of people probably haven't bought significant stuff in a while. Like, how do you navigate this for yourself?
I think there's a lot of forced saving going on right now.
Yeah.
If people are losing jobs, they're not spending money. At the same time, I think it was a wake-up call to a lot of home owners who have big mortgage debt or credit card debt, because prior to all of this was borrow money. Rates are never going up.
Right.
You're, just help out the economy wherever you can by spending. Fool me once, that kind of thing. And now we're on the flip side of that, where you've got credit card debt levels very high, delinquencies rising. People are going, well, thank goodness my mortgage HELOC is coming down. I can breathe. Not necessarily going to do any spending. Again, human nature being what it is, as that balances out. Again, maybe next year.
But is there lingering trauma from this, maybe?
Yes. But again, we get over these things kind of quickly, I think, sometimes, where you go, I've got a little bit of, I can spend on a trip or a home renovation or something of that nature. It's not going to be immediate, but and again, next year, I'd bet dollars to donuts, you're going to see an increase in the sales activity at Rona and Home Depot,
right,
things like that, and or the car market and all these things. Because look, the retail space is going to take advantage of this. Auto dealers are going to say, hey, we can actually offer 0% again,
Right.
which hadn't been there for a while. So, yeah, you're going to see people take advantage of this again. And
I guess there's
start
people
spending.
who went into the pandemic maybe expecting to spend or with money and couldn't because the whole world shut down. And then by the time the world was opening up again, inflation was still rising. So you've got not only this year and a half, 2 years cycle of inflation, but you've got the 2 years before that during which there was no point in splurging on a trip.
Again, the pendulum. Yeah, and the forced savings, some of that's already worked through, I think, because people just had to cover their monthly bills, so they don't have as much money in the bank necessarily. And again, that is a sweeping comparison of all wage levels in the Canadian economy. Everybody's, to some extent going to be different. But yeah, I think we've kind of gone through a little trauma. A lot of consumers have gone through, the staying awake at night worrying about the bills. And that you're right. It might linger a little bit longer.
Last question then, as somebody who covers this news day to day, you mentioned interest rate cuts are coming for sure. What else are you watching for in the next couple of months that'll give you an indication of how fast we're bouncing back or not?
Well, unemployment is the key factor, and even that's a lagging indicator. But it's 6.6% now. It's just expected. Does it touch 7? Which would be a highest level since 2017 or thereabouts. I mean, these are not good signs. So yeah, I think we've actually got some economic pain to go through in the short term. And again, it's these wild swings, and we're not immune. Every economy's gone through this, and you're just trying to kind of find this equilibrium and balance it out so it doesn't crash. So we'll see if it happens. See if it works. Let's hope.
Here's to a soft landing,
yes.
Mike. Thank you so much for this as always.
Thank you.
Hey, you. Bravo's now in Canada.
I just got chills.
If you know Bravo,
I love that.
You love that?
you know Vanderpump Rules,
Why does it have to get so complicated?
Summer House,
Don't activate me because you've not seen me activated.
Below Deck,
I'm not your friend. I'm your captain.
Top Chef, and Housewives. Definitely Housewives.
I'm not gonna lie, I'm looking forward to this.
Bravo, now available.
It's insane.
Subscribe now with your TV service provider.
Fall in Canada has never been hotter.